What's up, guys? Welcome to week 6 of the NFL. I'm going to be giving my week 6 pro versus pro picks. This week I go up against Fantasy Couch and what should be a revenge match from week 1. I will avenge my loss. And it's going to be a good one. So I'm going to go ahead and discuss my picks with you all. Show you who I picked and why I picked them. And then I'll also give you a quick overview of all the rest of the players, kind of give you some ideas, help you build some lineups of your own to enter in your own head-to-head matches, and hope you do well. So starting out, I'm going to build a team here with you. I already put this team in, but I'm going to build it here from scratch with you so you can see who I picked. Starting out with quarterback, it was tough because all week I was riding the Baker Mayfield train, and just this morning, last minute change, I decided to end up going with Jay Winston instead. Now I know this is probably going to be the most popular quarterback for the week. I was trying to avoid him for that reason, but after some deep analysis and some thinking, I just ended up opting with him, and it should be a good game. It's going to be a high-scoring game, probably the highest-scoring game. So a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards, and everything should be produced in this game. So it should be a good one. So Jameis Winston should have a safe floor for this game, I think. You can't go wrong with Baker Mayfield either. And the reason why I'm speaking of these two quarterbacks right off the bat is because in my head-to-head matches, as you know, I like to pay down on quarterback. It is very rare that I'll pay up for a quarterback. And this week is no different. So the two best value quarterbacks that I found for this week are obviously Winston and Baker Mayfield. Honestly, you can't go wrong with either one. Baker Mayfield has been progressively doing better with every week. As you can see, on the week that he started, he put up 9.84. Next week, 12.8. And on this last week, against a tough Ravens defense, he put up 21 points. So the kid's only getting better every week, and for him to have put up 342 yards, a touchdown, and 21 fantasy points against the Ravens, that's going to tell you this guy he's getting somewhere. So this week he could even have a higher fantasy production, which I don't see why he doesn't. But again, I went with Winston. So going up with the expensive quarterbacks, we got Matt Ryan at the top, which is probably the best quarterback this week out of them all. I would have gone with him if I could afford him, but obviously he's the most expensive quarterback at $6,800, so I had to find value. Up here you got Deshaun Watson, another great pick. This guy will give you points with his feet, throwing the ball, and he's just overall a real great asset. Like, just produces fantasy points left and right in every which way. So he has a lot of great weapons in offense too. DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller coming back, and it should be good. Andy Dalton, another great pick. Can't go wrong with that. Andrew Luck against the Jets should be interesting. Cam Newton, Jared Goff. Could be a bit risky. They're expecting snow in this game, so I don't know how that's going to affect the passing game. Philip Rivers is always a great pick. Doesn't matter who the hell he's going up with. The guy's fucking badass, so Philip Rivers just can't go wrong with him. Russell Wilson, I would just stay away from for the rest of the season. They seem to be going run heavy on their offense, and he just hasn't been the same Russell Wilson from that we've been used to in other years. He's been putting some low production weeks here, so Blake Bortles, another guy that could be up or could be down. So that pretty much covers all the quarterbacks. You decide who you want based on how much salary you have, obviously. Starting out with the running backs, Todd Gurley, obviously $10,000. He's obviously the best running back you can get this week. He's $10,000. For obvious reasons. The guy's a freaking beast. He is worth every penny of that salary. I don't see why he doesn't pay off his salary this week, giving you 30 points plus, especially if there's going to be snow on the field. I only see it benefiting him more. So Todd Gurley, a freaking beast. Le'Veon Bell still out. Christian McCaffrey against Washington could be interesting, but I'm kind of getting concerned about his usage in the red zone area. Cam Newton has not been looking his way during the, or they haven't been utilizing him too much in the red zone, but he's still going to get plenty targets and at least more than 20 rush attempts, so he'll always put up a good floor for you, but that touchdown equity is not quite there for him anymore from what I've seen. Melvin Gordon, another freaking beast. You could plug him in almost every week and be okay. Cleveland has sneakily been a pretty good defense this year, so he could regress a bit this week, or he could just put up another big week like he always does. Up to you if you want to go with him. James Conner, traveling, I feel like Pittsburgh always tends to regress a bit when they're playing away rather than at home. So James Conner, I'm going to avoid him this week. But the running back I will be going with is Joe Mixon. This guy should be getting plenty of attempts, decent amount of targets, and we know he gets a lot of red zone targets as well. So he has that touchdown equity, which I always look for in a running back. He has all three of those, so I put him down. Zeke Elliott against Jacksonville. I don't want none of that. And as I've said before, Zeke is just not the same guy that we've seen from previous years, and neither is that Dallas offense. So staying up there and in the keeping the offense out there in the field for too long, I don't see it, especially not happening against Jacksonville. So I would avoid Zeke. Jordan Howard is a guy that I've seen a lot of people riding pretty big this week. I don't really see why. Jordan Howard hasn't really done much, and if you look at his rush attempts, he hasn't gotten more than 15 per game. So usually when I pick a running back, I'm looking for 20 and above, and this guy, the best he's done is 15. Other weeks he'll get 8 or 10. He is not involved too much in the passing game either, so he's not going to give you points from receptions. He only has one touchdown for as far as the whole season goes, so touchdown equity is not there either. Those are three things that are kind of iffy for me, so I'm completely avoiding him. But people are just riding him big. They're saying he's going to have the biggest week of his life and this and that against a weak Miami defense, which I understand. They allowed Joe Mixon a big game. James White as well. So it's possible Jordan Howard could have a big week too, but then again, Jordan Howard ain't no Joe Mixon or James White, so completely different running back. So I don't know. I mean, people are riding them. That's cool. Go for it. I will have the advantage there. Leonard Fournette, I believe, is still out, so TJ Yeldon will have another big week, especially against Dallas. Although I understand Dallas has had a decent run defense. I believe they were like top 5 in yards per carry allowed, but TJ Yeldon is not that bad of a running back. He's involved in the passing game a lot, so I see him doing real good against Dallas here. He should be out for a great game. I wouldn't be too worried about that those stats in that department. So as far as running backs, I'm going Joe Mixon and Yeldon. Now, this week I'm going 3 running backs, as I usually do. And of course, my third running back is going to be the beast of Todd Gurley. Just have to put him in there. The guy is guaranteed to give you more than 30 points this week. I feel like he will. And amongst these 3 running backs, I should get about more than 70 carries, plenty receptions, and high touchdown equity. So for me, this is the golden trio of running backs this week. However, paying up for Todd Gurley is going to make you suffer in the rest of your lineup. But thankfully, I was able to find some good, very good value this week, which I'll go over some of that with you starting now. Let's see. Devontae Freeman, I believe, is out this week. David Johnson, like I said last week, he wasn't gonna do any more better than what he's been doing lately. I said he was gonna have another 16-18 week. He had 21 points, a little bit better than what he was used to, but again, he's 2 touchdown dependent. He put up 2 touchdowns. You take away those 2 touchdowns, he would have had a 10-point day. I believe he had like about 18 attempts and only got 55 yards. That's not good production. So David Johnson is very touchdown dependent. You're going to need to get touchdowns out of him for him to pay off his salary. So That's too much risk in my opinion, so I would still continue avoiding him. Tevin Coleman could be good with Devontae Freeman out. At 5,400, it's pretty good price against Tampa Bay, the highest scoring game this week, I believe. So that could be good too. Going cheaper than that, Isaiah Crowell has been doing good, but it's still up in the air if he's going to play or not. Carlos Hyde is a great value pick. He's unfortunately not too involved in the passing game, but he does have a lot of production in the running. He gets a lot of rush attempts every week, and he's used fairly well in the red zone area. As you can see, 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, 1 touchdown. So I guess you could say he is touchdown dependent as well, but he does get a lot more yardage done than a guy like David Johnson, for example. So I would trust Carlos Hyde more over him. Let's see, going down here cheaper, Lamar Miller, I'm just completely avoiding all season long. I don't know why a lot of people tend to like him a lot, but from what I've seen out of Lamar Miller, he doesn't really get much done. Down here in the cheaper guys, Mike Davis could be interesting. We've seen the Seattle going run heavy, being a run heavy offense this week against Oakland. Mike Davis and Chris Carson could be out for big weeks. So Chris Carson and Mike Davis, especially Chris Carson, these two are probably going to be your two cheapest, best running backs for the week. But again, what if Seattle decides to go pass heavy this game now? You just never know. Outside of that, I think that's the best value in running backs. Let's move on to wide receivers. Right off the bat, Antonio Brown, the most expensive guy for obvious reasons. He's Roethlisberger's favorite guy. Always force targets his way. Antonio Brown, again, the fact that they're playing away and not at home, it kind of scares me a bit, so I'm staying away from that. And the fact that I'm paying for Todd Gurley, I can't afford him. So regardless, Adam Thielen, another great pick. Adam Thielen could be the best wide receiver of the season. I mean, this guy's production this year has been unreal. Mike Evans with Winston back, it could be another great week for him. AJ Green's always steady. Julio Jones, a guy you just never know if he's going to go off this week or if he's going to create another dud for you. But I have a strong feeling Julio Jones could have the best week he's had so far this week. But that's the thing, you just never know with Julio Jones. DeAndre Hopkins, always a freaking beast. This guy's always going to give you a great floor. You can't go wrong with him. Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, you can't go wrong with either. Keenan Allen against Cleveland. Another steady guy for the most part. Should give you a decent floor. Juju Smith-Schuster, I am avoiding him this week, especially away. People were riding him big last week. I didn't feel he was going to have a great week, and I got that one right. So I don't think he will have another great week here. Should have a decent one, but not great. Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, the Rams receivers. I believe Cooks and Kupp should be back this week. So I don't know how healthy they're going to stay during the game, or if they're going to get injured again right away. So those could be some risky picks. Probably the safest guy would be Robert Woods if you want to pay up for him. Will Fuller coming back. Also, he's been injured. I don't know if he could stay healthy the whole game or he's going to get injured again. So Will Fuller, be careful with him. Emmanuel Sanders against the Rams. The Rams are going to put up points, so they're going to have to throw the ball out. Emmanuel Sanders could get a lot of targets here. And then, of course, my boy Jarvis Landry, one of my favorites. Just steady, real steady guy. I was really wanting to I was thinking it hard if to get him or not, but in the end, I did get him. That was also another last minute play for me, but Jarvis Landry is just one of the safest wide receivers out there. Now with Mayfield, a quarterback that looks very promising. Man, Jarvis Landry gets anywhere from 10 to 15 targets per week, so you just can't go wrong with the guy. So on the wide receivers, that's who I went with. I paid down on wide receivers. I paid up on running backs, paid down on wide receivers. So Jarvis Landry was my first pick. And obviously, since Jarvis Landry is not that cheap either, I had to go super cheap on wide receiver. I had to find some good value. And the best value I was able to find for this week, Kiki Coutee, or however the hell you say his name. For the last 2 weeks, we've seen he's been getting a decent amount of targets. He's been putting up some decent floors in his fantasy production, but now that Will Fuller is coming back, it kind of worries me a bit. I don't know if that's obviously the production is gonna go down for him, but will he still be able to produce at least a touchdown and at least 6 receptions to give you at least a 15-point day? I think he'll still have a good day. He should have enough to pay off his price tag. At 4,600, you need at least 14, 15 points off him. I see him getting close to that. Obviously, putting him on the roster allowed me to get Jarvis Landry. So those are my 2 receivers for the week. Cheaper than Coutee, maybe Michael Crabtree has sneakingly been getting a lot of targets, but he just hasn't been catching too many of them. So, and obviously he doesn't have much touchdown equity. So, I don't know. I guess the day he finally gets a touchdown, he'll probably put up a 20-point day. But that's the thing. You're becoming a touchdown dependent at that point. Larry Fitzgerald, unfortunately, having a pretty bad season. One of the best wide receivers of all time. Just not putting up the points this year. Chris Godwin could be sneaky good, but I would keep him more for tournaments, not so much head-to-heads. Josh Reynolds was going to be the biggest value play of the week if Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks would have been out. But now that we know they're coming back, this guy is off the table. Otherwise, it would have been probably Jarvis Landry and this guy in my lineups. But it is what it is. Aside of that, another guy that people are getting real big on this week is where's he at? Mohamed Sanu. Now he's been having the last 3 weeks have been pretty good for him. He's got 2 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Some good receptions and targets. However, I don't know why, I just get a gut feeling like this is going to be the week where he regresses a bit, and Julio Jones is the one that's going to end up having the big game. But again, you just never know with that guy. Tyler Boyd, last week I told you all that I was avoiding him because I felt like this was the week he was going to regress, and he sure as hell did. So I'm glad I stayed away from him. And this week could be a bounce back for him. I do see him putting up more than 8 points, obviously. He could put up anywhere from 12 to 15, so Tyler Boyd could be a great pick this week. He already had his week of regressment, so I don't see why he doesn't bounce back now. Remember, guys, when a guy has been doing real good for week after week after week after week, he's more than likely going to regress one of those weeks. Like, there's no such thing as a guy that just keeps up putting up monster points week after week. Also, Michael Thomas and Adam Thielen, Alvin Kamara, those are a few that have proven that stat wrong, obviously, but eventually they do regress. So just keep that in mind for the most part. Alright, that covers wide receivers. Let's move on to tight end. The most expensive guy, Eric Ebron, a target monster. Last week put up 34 points. That is insane. He's not one of the greatest tight ends, but with Jack Doyle out and T.Y. Hilton out, Eric Ebron is probably the only worthy guy to throw the ball to in that team now. So he's getting all the targets and all the action. Will he continue that streak with the Jets? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he regresses this week. I'm just avoiding him. He's too expensive. I see better value down here. There's a few guys. In the super cheap department, I wouldn't risk any of the guys. Like for me this week, the guy I'm going with that make the most sense is David Njoku of Cleveland with Baker Mayfield as quarterback. This guy's been getting a lot more targets. Hasn't been catching too many of them. Hopefully that gets fixed to this week, and if he catches more of those passes and puts up a touchdown, bam, I should be getting 20 points out of him this week. So I have high hopes in Njoku. I think he should be one of the top tight ends this week. Another guy that could be good is Cameron Brate with Winston coming back. We know Winston loves Brate, but I believe OJ Howard, I'm not sure if I think I heard he was coming back or not. That could affect him as well, but depends on the news. Haven't kept up with it, but either way, my guy this week is going to be Njoku in tight end. I'm not paying up for any of the expensive guys. I don't have much trust in them. My flex, I went running back. That was Gurley. Kicker, obviously, I'm going to have to go with Matt Bryant in Atlanta, because that's going to be the highest scoring game in my opinion. A lot of touchdowns and field goals are going to be put up in that game, and I see Matt Bryant getting the majority of those over Tampa Bay. So Matt Bryant, I think, is a very safe kicker this week. The only position left is defense. I also like to pay down on defense. So down here in the cheap defenses, I couldn't believe how cheap the Ravens defense was this week. God damn it, where are they? Right there. I went with the Baltimore Ravens defense. Yes, they're going up against another tough defense in Tennessee, but the Ravens, I think, are the stronger defense in that game, and should be able to put up more points than Tennessee. As you can see, their week by week points have been pretty damn good, except for week 2 here against Cincinnati. So Ravens are cheap. They're going to put up a decent amount of points in defense. I believe in them. That's who I'm going with. If you want to pay up for defense this week, sure, no problem. Vikings against Arizona, that could be real good. Jaguars against Dallas, that's real good. Texans against Buffalo, can't complain with that. The Bears against Miami. All these guys up here, they're real good defenses. There should not be a problem with any of them. Another good value defense would probably be Carolina versus Washington. Carolina's pretty cheap at $2,600. I know Carolina's not one of the greatest defenses, but I mean, they put up decent points every week. 12, 10, 12. Only 1 point against Atlanta, but for $2,600, you can't complain. So there you have it. That's my lineup for this week. With that trio of running backs that I have, I should get about 70 attempts from them, plenty of targets, and high touchdown equity. Jarvis Landry, I know, is going to give me at least 10 to 15 targets. Cootie, hopefully 5 to 10. So if I could average 20 targets in between those two receivers, and then hopefully 10 from Njoku, we're looking at about 30 targets and receivers and tight end, and 70 touches from my running backs. That should produce for some high points. And the Ravens defense, and a lot of field goals and extra points from Matt Bryant. This is one hell of a lineup. This lineup left me with zero salary left, and I don't see how I could possibly make this lineup any better than what it is right here. So that's my lineup for the week. Here you can see we're already put it into the match. Just waiting on Fantasy Couch's lineup to be put up, and they should be ready for you guys to throw up your bets. So there you have it. This lineup is projected to get 105 points. I really like it. It should be nice and strong and produce a lot of fantasy points and get me the win for the week. in Revenge Week versus Fantasy Couch. And put me up at 4 wins and 2 losses. So let's do it. Put up your bets now. And let's make this money-making week on No Limit Fantasy Sports for your head-to-head matches, your pro versus pros, or your tournaments, whatever you decide to join. Or if you don't know football too well, join the free rolls. That's another great thing. It doesn't cost you a penny, and you could win money off of that. So go play the free rolls if you don't feel too confident in your game with the NFL. And you never know, playing the free rolls, you might find out you're a badass. So just give it a try. Other than that, this section of Fantasy Crotch. Wow. Fantasy Crypt. Alright, let's end it here. That was too much. See y'all later.
Okay, let's do this fucking shit.